Hi, everyone. Today we are going to continue our work with Number the Stars. And in today's session, we're going to talk about deepening our interpretations or our understanding of the book through close reading. Close reading means really looking really closely at all the clues and all the information that the author is giving you and building your understanding of the story by looking closely. So today I want to teach you that in a good book, just as in a good conversation, you can feel your thinking being changed. So when you are open to new thinking as you read and as you discuss ideas with other readers, you can build richer and more powerful interpretations. Okay, so don't get stuck on the one idea that you get, but think as you go. Maybe this supports the idea I had, maybe it's a new idea, or maybe it totally changes the ideas that I had. Okay, let's think about chapter 6 in Number the Stars. We're going to read just a little piece, the scene when Mama is remembering her dog, Trofast. And this is very significant, this part. So we're going to listen to this little piece. The sidewalk ended and Mama turned onto a dirt path bordered by trees. When I walked each morning into town for school, she said, my dog followed me this far, and at the end of the path, he turned and went back home. I guess he was a country dog and he didn't like town. And you know what? She went on smiling. I had named him Trofast, faithful. And it was just the right name for him because what a faithful dog he was. Every afternoon, he was always right here waiting for me to return. He knew the right time somehow. Sometimes as I come around this bend, even today, I feel as if I might come upon Trofast, waiting still with his tail wagging. So it's really important to note that Trofast waited for her every day in the same spot. His tail was always wagging. And those little details are so important for one reason, because it shows that Mama never forgets anyone that she cares about. This was her dog from a long, long time ago. And she remembers, not only does she remember the dog, but she remembers these specific details. It's also very important because the dog's name, Trofast, they told us, means faithful. And that's kind of how Anne Marie and her mom are being to Ellen and her family. Okay. So this kind of makes me think that maybe a bigger idea might be that Number the Stars might really be about being faithful and loyal and taking care of people that you care about. Okay. Now, if we now look at the book and kind of think back to some of the other things that we've seen, but we look at it through this lens of the story being about being faithful or loyal to others. Let's see if we can remember any other things, right? In chapter 3, there's a really significant moment where the family is discussing the closing of Mrs. Hirsch's button shop and how worried they are about the Hirsch family. And Mama says this really important line. Okay. So I believe Anne Marie says, well, what will they do if they can't sell buttons for money? And Mama says, friends will take care of them. That's what friends do. As we read on now, let's read through this lens, right? So as we continue to read through Number the Stars, let's say, okay, here's another lens. We could look through it. Maybe this book is really about being loyal and faithful to others, okay, to your friends, to those who are important. Okay, and let's read through that lens and see as we go on, do we find more support for that idea, right? So the idea that it is important to be faithful to those you care about. Okay. And then also, not only are we looking through that lens as we continue on, but we can also continue to look for new big ideas that might come up and new lenses, because there can be multiple lenses and multiple big ideas and themes that we can view the story through. Okay. Now, one thing to think about, here are some ways to kind of prompt your thinking, okay? Whether you're just thinking about it or you're writing. So today, when you're doing your jots for your own fiction book, historical fiction book, you can remember these prompts that we use in the classroom, right? And you can use the ones that work for you. So you might say, I used to think, but now I realize, or When I first read this, I thought, okay, but now rereading it, I realize, okay, we could say, I used to think that Number the Stars was just a story about this very dangerous period of time, but now I realize it's also a story that teaches about the importance of friendship and loyalty. Okay. On the surface, this is a story of, but I think it is really a story about. Okay. Some people think this is a story about, but I think this is really a story about. And this one's kind of cool. My ideas about Number the Stars are complicated in a way, I think, but on the other hand, I also think, right? So it's a way of prompting yourself to say, I know it's a book about this, but I also now know it's also a book about, okay, and looking through different lenses. So today, as you read your own historical fiction book, look to see what types of big ideas you are seeing, okay, in your book. And as you come up with some of these big ideas, which you've already been thinking about when you think about theme, right? Jot down some of those ideas in your e-reader on the page that's provided for the Stop and Jots for session 8. Now remember, if you say you're going to look at these big ideas or read the book through a certain lens, you have to be able to also jot down some evidence, okay, of where you see that lens. Have a wonderful day, everybody.